Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, and NBs, and thank you for tuning back into St. Andrew TV, a cure for your Monday blues. I'm your host, Andrew, and today you can see that I have a very unique outfit on, and I even put on my badge. But it's a bit of a misdirection because today we are going to focus on this. Now, to some of you, this might look familiar, besides the fact that it is an wide-brimmed Western hat. But this is actually the hat that the most underrated and my personal favorite character from Red Dead Redemption wore in-game. This is the hat of Marshal Leigh Johnson. Now, you cannot get this anywhere, so what we are going to do today is shape it ourselves. And after this introduction, past Andrew is going to show you how to do it. Thank you, future Andrew. As you can see, this hat is now unshaped. And this is a Stetson hat. This is going to be the first Stetson hat that I have shaped that is intended for me to wear. Now, there are a few things when we are shaping hats. The first thing that we do when we are reshaping hats is we take the lining out, which I have already done. This one was not too difficult to remove. It had one little dab of hot glue in it and it came right out. Now this one is going to come with a little bit more effort. As you can see, there is a factory stitched hat band that we do not need anymore. That's what we're gonna do with this X-Acto knife here. This is extremely sharp, and the factory hat band has one little stitch periodically sewn across the circumference of the crown. When I say it's extremely sharp, one false move could leave you a nice sized cut in your hat. We don't want to do that. This part you won't see too much of, but I'm letting you know that if you are going to go on this adventure with me, that this is going to take a little bit of time. This is now off, and all you can see is the stitching here that keeps the leather hat band secure inside the hat. But don't worry, that will not be visible at the end of this video, as you can see by future Andrew donning it in the introduction. That's another thing I would like to add. You're cutting the stitch that is keeping the hat band on. You are not cutting this stitch in particular. The leather band inside of your hat will fall out. So this is a cattleman crease with a 4-inch brim, and it is a natural color, almost, I think it's silver belly to be quite frank with everybody. That is my best idea of what the hat in game looks like. This is 6X beaver fur felt. As you saw from the intro and future Andrew donning it, this is going to look a hell of a lot different. So let's get right into it. We start with the crown when we reshape hats, then we move on to the brim. The brim is not the obstacle that we have to tackle today. It is the crown itself. Let's fire things up. So I do apologize because the steamer is quite noisy, but what the photo looks like here, and that is what I'm looking at. So if you see me peering over to my left, your right, I'm looking at a picture of the hat. It looks like an elongated trail boss crown, and it's not, identical to an open crown. An open crown is more dome-esque. A trail boss or a boss of the plains crown does have some edges to it. It almost looks like a hybrid. And that is exactly what we're going to try to do. It looks taller, somewhere in the 5.5-inch range, just trying to gauge by the in-game graphics of his head and how that's shaped. It looks to be about 5.5 inches. And that does work out in our favor because this is probably a 6-inch crown once we get it to its natural shape, which is a round top. And we do have to flatten it out and give it more of a rounded edge up top. to give it the shape that we're looking for. So it should fall right into place, and that is what we're going to start with, is just getting this back to a natural shape. Start by giving this a little bit of steam. If I haven't made it well known in the previous hat shaping videos before, if you find a hat secondhand, which this one was not bought off the shelf, this one was not new when I purchased it. This was a Facebook Marketplace find, actually. The Cattleman crease itself is arguably the worst shape to start with, and it gets exceedingly more difficult depending on how long it was in the Cattleman crease. If the hat's been in the shape of the Cattleman crease for, years and years and years, you're looking at like an hour, 2, maybe even 3 to completely get that shape out of the crown. I don't know how well the camera can pick it up right now, but I've been working on this for an hour, and you can even see that I've got so much steam on this side it's actually starting to make the fibers appear wet, which is a lot of moisture. You shouldn't need that much to pull a shape out of a hat, but it's just so damning to the materials of the hat itself when it's in that particular shape. So if you're new to this, I would try to stay away from the Cattleman crease as much as you can. Obviously, if you're at an antique store or something, you're not going to have much of a choice of what the hat's going to look like when you purchase it. However, this one is exceedingly difficult because I'm not sure how long it was in that particular shape, but you can even see the dirt marks of the Cattleman crease. This is perfectly round right here, but you can see the creases of dirt of who wore it before me and how long they wore it in that shape, because of just how the creases fell, and it's just a lot. That's all I have to say. So, if all possible, I would steer clear of the Cattleman crease if you're new to reshaping hats. So let's continue with trying to break this brim of any bad habits. What I'm doing here is I'm getting the top of the crown here exceedingly hot, and what I'm doing is turning it over and laying it on the table. And it's going to be flat for a second until you realize that moisture, especially warm moisture, will evaporate. And that's when you're going to stick your finger underneath and manipulate the sides to give it that quick round look, that what we're looking for. You saw it from the picture earlier. You want it to, we're going to try and give a hybrid appearance between a Boss of the Plains crown and an open crown. That's the best way I can describe it. It's not a true boss crown, it's not a true open crown. So that's what we're trying to do right now. We got to the part where the crown doesn't have any noticeable dents from that Cattleman crease, which thank God, because that's a chore in and of itself to get that out of there. So now we're working on what the shape should look like in terms of a Marshal Leigh Johnson hat. So this is the part where I'm flattening it at the top of it on the table here. And then I stick my finger on the inside and I make a circle, almost like you're doing a telescopic crown. You don't want to keep it there too long, and you don't want to ignore putting pressure on the top of the crown, which is on the bottom, because the moisture is starting to evaporate from this side now, pulling the crown down, which you can see. Now, if it's too noticeable, you can go through it like that, and it's so damn wet that it should be very receptive to a very light touch. But this is where you can come around and start sweeping the outside to give it more of that quick turn, but not too egregious, not too dramatic on the turns. And this hat is actually starting to come together. If you can look at it, here's the front. And you can see you're starting to get that not so dramatic, but still pretty dramatic rounded edge getting up to the top of the crown. We still got a little work to do, but it is coming together for certain. This is the crown we're going to go with. I think it's going to be a little taller than we originally expected, but this isn't pressed for a 5.5-inch crown. It's probably going to be a little taller than what we want, but it's going to look the part nonetheless. So we're going to move on to the brim here, and then we will add a hat band. So the brim itself is kind of flat. It actually looks like weather has taken it upon itself to make the brim what it looks like in the photo I'm using. So what we're going to do is just flatten it out, and then I'm just going to take the hat and swing it around a little bit. And you're going to get a flat brim with a little bit of, you know, the weather's influence, the surroundings influence. Pretty simple, not too much to unpack. I wouldn't say that looks too horrendously bad. It's going to need to dry a little bit, of course, but the final touch that we need to add is a hat band. And for the life of me, I cannot tell if the hat band is brown or red. That is why I have both of them. Now, for the sake of me wearing a red vest, this matches a little bit better for my outfit in particular. So we were just going to put this around the crown like so. Ideally, you're going to want to let the hat dry a little bit, but for the sake of this video not being 48 hours long, and instead probably 20 minutes, we are just going to add it now and cover up that stitching that's keeping your sweatband inside the hat. And there you have it. The only thing left to do is to put the satin lining back into the hat itself. Satin lining is in the hat itself, and that concludes today's video. The only thing that I will note about this hat shape in particular is you're going to want to find a shorter crown. It does look the part, and it does look pretty close to the one in game, however, not perfect. The other thing I'd like to add is it doesn't necessarily fit me. It fit me when I tried it on, but that was in a different shape. Usually when you flatten out the brim, the circumference gets a little bit more snug. So if you get flat brim hats, make sure that you are trying them on before you purchase them, because flatter the brim, the tighter the hat fits. Thank you anyway for getting this far into the video. This was the hat of Marshal Leigh Johnson. If you liked today's video, please hit that like button or leave me a comment stating what you liked, or tell me what I should do next. I have a Patreon that is linked down in the description field below, or it should be appearing right at the front of the brim right here. I do not take ads nor sponsorships here on this channel, so you know everything is homegrown and grassrooted. The only influence that I want is from the community, and I would like to keep it that way. So if you would like to continue to support the channel, please feel free to go over to the Patreon and leave a donation. But there is no obligation to do so, as the content on YouTube will forever remain free. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed as of late. But for those of you who have come across this video or this channel, maybe because you like Wild West content, maybe you just wanted to learn how to reshape a hat, or maybe you were just curious about the headwear that the most underrated character of Red Dead Redemption wore, think about hitting that subscribe button, because you're a daisy if you do.